Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day today. My name is Sabrina Victoria. It is mid-January. Time is just floating by 2021. I hope everyone has had a fantastic beginning of the year. So, I am back. I am back with you guys doing another video on narcissism. As I told you guys, I was going to be continuing on with recognizing the signs of mental and emotional abuse, predominantly seen in narcissistic relationships. I myself have endured plenty of narcissists throughout my life. There's a total of 6 of them in at several different levels and at several different times within my life. The worst is the one that I predominantly talk about. It was my last relationship. It was 13 years of my life. Never married. We were engaged for the last 4 years of our relationship. And when I say 13 years, that was 13 years of our relationship. However, in the middle of our relationship, or actually towards the beginning of our relationship, he convinced me to start working for him as another way of being able to control my life and my time. And so our entire duration of our relationship was 15 years because I stayed working for him for another 2 years after I ended our personal relationship. And for those of you that don't necessarily know that story, feel free to listen in on all the rest of the YouTube videos and Facebook Lives, and you can hear the rest of that. But today I am going to be touching on 3 more areas of mental and emotional abuse, and that is accusing, blaming, and denial. So for those of you who are just now linking up with me, I did a video just recently, a few weeks ago, on humiliation, negating, and criticizing. Then I did another one on control and shame, how they take control of your life and they shame you. And then this next one is accusing, blaming, and denial. Obviously, you can see I have notes, so I will be looking down at them in order to stay focused and make sure I'm giving you guys the information that is needed so that you are getting everything you need out of this. So I love to share my story. I do know that there are plenty of other coaches, teachers, mentors out there that talk about different things that narcissists do. And I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist of any sort. I am a coach. I am a mentor. However, I use my own life experiences. I love to tell my story. The biggest issue that I had with this whole scenario is I went pretty much my entire life up until age probably 30, thinking that I was the crazy one, that I was the insane one. And it wasn't until I started digging in on what was going on in my life that I realized who I was dealing with and what I had been dealing with for all of these years. And the biggest thing that I was always missing is real life experiences. When you hear like, this is what they do, it's hard to really grasp whether or not that's what you're actually dealing with. So I tell my story in order to help those of you who know and understand the concept of what a narcissist is, but it doesn't quite line up with what you're dealing with. So with the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 examples I'm giving today based on accusing, blaming, and denial. I will also be linking in my story or what I dealt with in that arena, so that if it does kind of jive with what you are dealing with in your life, it's just a little bit more of a, I guess, a kick in the butt for you to realize that this isn't pretend, this isn't fake. Your emotions are valid, and the things that you're thinking are true, and kind of like a Hail Mary for you to be able to say, I'm out of here, I'm not dealing with this anymore, and to feel comfortable regaining your power back, which that's what this is all about, is educating yourself so that you can move forward and get your power back, because that's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. So a lot of times people who end up in narcissistic relationships are empaths. I do consider myself a healing empath. So although I am still caring and empathetic, I am working really hard on my control, taking back my power, speaking my feelings, boundaries. Although I do have a lot of the same characteristics, I am very much so coming into my own with dealing with that and healing from that, because I have seen it for all of these years as a negative thing, and it's actually not a negative thing. It's actually a very powerful thing. And getting educated on this information helps you realize that. So the first one on my list to talk about is jealousy. Now, this was a huge one in my relationship. And even to this day, I am 3 years out of my relationship and about 1 year no contact. I still have a really hard time dealing with this because it makes me feel guilty, even though I shouldn't feel guilty. The amount of times that I was accused of cheating was probably every single month for the entire duration of our relationship. So whether it was a waiter at a restaurant that looked at me for a little too long, or a neighbor who I was chatting with, or the produce guy at the supermarket who I asked where the oranges were, if he was there and he saw any reason, my ex-narc, and he saw any reason, any look, any like tilt of a smile, like he would accuse me of cheating constantly. At the gym was a huge one. At the grocery store was a huge one. Restaurants. It basically got to the point where I did not look at anybody of the opposite sex. I did not talk to anybody of the opposite sex. I did not interact with anybody of the opposite sex unless it was with him at work. And even at that point, it was very limited, very far away. I always kept my distance and not friendly, like very straight to the point, matter of fact, no playfulness, nothing that could possibly be construed as friendly whatsoever. And the reason that is because it would be all fine and dandy while it was happening, but the moment we were alone or we went home, it would turn into an entire conversation, which would then usually be followed by me getting upset, being defensive. And then when I got defensive, it would turn into, why are you being defensive? Are you hiding something? Why are you being defensive? Are you guilty of something? And it would turn into this whole ridiculousness. So if I cried, which is almost always my go-to, then I was hiding something. If I got angry, then I was being defensive and I was hiding something. So it didn't matter which route I decided to take. Either way, I was guilty. And it basically trained me. And even to this day, I still struggle with this. I still struggle with hanging out. I still struggle with making friends. I still struggle with talking to people of the opposite sex openly and freely without a thought in the back of my head on whether or not I'm going to get in trouble for this later on because of this conversation. It's very, very heavy on me. I did not realize, so even though I started educating myself about 8 years into this worst narcissistic relationship, I didn't know about this jealousy thing until probably a year or so later. So, I don't know why. I didn't know if I didn't pick up on it or if I just didn't see or hear anything, but I had absolutely no idea. And it was a huge relief, like a huge relief. I'm sorry, I broke my leg back in October. It's still healing. And I'm like sitting really weird. So it's hurting me right now. So anyways, that's a huge one. Love is not supposed to be jealous. So there is a difference between, feeling like, what's going on over there? And being out, like being in a rage, an absolute rage. Two totally different things. So be mindful of that. The next one is turning the tables. They say you cause their rage and control issues by being such a pain. So this would happen whenever I brought up my feelings. So anytime he did or said something, and then I would say, you hurt my feelings, he would turn into it would turn into this whole big thing. And then somehow in the mix of it, he would turn the table so that somehow I then became the bad guy for having feelings, I guess. It's a very tricky way of arguing, and it kind of makes you feel insane. So if there's ever a point several times where you feel insane or like you're going crazy, usually this is what's going on. I do want to say something, and this was a huge issue for me. So a lot of the things that I have been talking about over the last, few YouTube videos that I've done here, people or couples do some of this stuff. There are couples that do get jealous. There are couples that, whatever it is, do little things like this. They threaten, spy, name call, assassination, a defaming your character, whatever it is. This is the issue though. When you're dealing with a narcissist, you're usually dealing with somebody who is doing this stuff to you on a daily basis. So this was the huge misconception that I had, because as an empath, you always tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, because you always want to see the good in people. You're slightly naive to the fact of that there's mean people in the world or there's monsters in the world. And you also take blame for a lot of stuff, like, oh, this could be my fault, or I could have done this. This is how you can tell if every single day If every single day you're dealing with one of these issues or one or more of these issues every single day, you're in a mentally and emotionally abusive relationship. If your spouse calls you names and you get into a huge heated argument once a month, I don't want to say it's normal. It's not nice to name call. Everyone argues in their own way. But the difference between, and this is where I got hung up, because when you hear, this was my thinking, you hear comedians. I watched a ton of comedy. I love laughing. I believe that laughing is the cure for like everything. But when you watch some of these comedies or you watch some of these sitcoms, they always kind of dabble with, arguing with your spouse or not liking your spouse or not liking your mate, and the arguments that would come up. And the arguments sometimes that would be mentioned would be arguments that me and my spouse had. And I would kind of chalk that up to, oh, I guess everyone deals with this. Yes, everybody does deal with this. Yes, everybody does argue. Yes, if you're living with somebody day to day, there are bound to be arguments, a few times a month. Where the clicker is here, for those of you that are still like, I don't know, if you're dealing with something, some sort of massive argument every single day, it's not normal. It's not normal. It shouldn't be like 70% awful feeling and 40% or 30% good feeling. It should be reverse. So it should be 70% of the time or more that you're living with this individual, you are feeling great. You are feeling beautiful. You are feeling on top of the world, powerful. You're feeling good. You're feeling well rested. You have good self-esteem. You're confident. And then a certain percentage, a smaller percentage of the time, there's bickerments that happen. Arguments about the kids, arguments about making the bed, house chores, whatever it is. But the majority of time, you should be fully satisfied with where you are in your life. If the numbers are flipped, which mine was like 90% horrible, 10% good, and the 10% was the love bombing. So as soon as I started getting to the point where I just couldn't freaking handle it anymore, and I was like, I'm out of here, I'm done, that's when that 10% would pop up, and that's when all of a sudden it was taking me out to dinner, taking me to the comedy club, buying me flowers, anything I wanted, the mall, whatever it was. And I'm super low maintenance, so it's not like he was lavishing me with jewelry and furs or anything. It's very, a nice, steak at Ruth Chris and then a comedy club, maybe drop a 100 or two on me over months. And then that would shut me up. And then he'd also be able to use that. So any argument or anything that I try to do with my feelings being hurt for, 5 to 10 days after that, he would say, well, I just took you. How could you say that I'm rude? How could you say that I'm mean? I just took you out for a steak dinner and took you to a comedy club, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. I can't even believe you're saying this. So then he would use it against me. And that's what I'm going to kind of get into here. I've kind of just jumped one over there. So the next one is using guilt. So exactly that. They might say something like, you owe me this. Look at all I've done for you, as an attempt to get their way. So he would use that against me. Also, throughout our relationship, for those of you that have listened to my YouTubes before, my story before, that he eventually, over the years, took all my power away from me. So it started out with my job. He's like, quit your job and come work for me and we'll be a power couple and make millions of dollars. So I quit my job and started working for him. I was literally making $250 a week when I first started working for him. And at that point, I also moved in with him. So it was like I moved in with him, and then a month or two after that, he had me quit my job, which obviously I was making a lot more than $250 a week. However, I didn't pay rent. I didn't pay utilities. So he was like, that money goes towards rent and utilities. And then this will be your little like spending money. The glitch was the spending money, $250 a week, was for all the groceries, was for all the toiletries, was for my phone bill, my gas, my car payment, and my son. I have a son, at that time he was really young. So basically at the end of the month, long story short, I had zero money. I was living on credit cards. I was living in this big house and had no money left over at the end of the month. But because he was letting me stay for free at his house and paying for the utilities, anytime I would say anything, anytime I would argue with him, it would always be like, I'm letting you stay here for free and you're not even paying anything. How could you be arguing with me? Any girl would die to be in your position right now. Any girl would kill to be in your position right now. So he made it basically impossible for me to ever have any feelings or ever have any thoughts. And would constantly make me feel guilty for all of the things that he's done for me, and was purposely keeping me poor. And he admitted to this when I finally was at my wit's end at the very end of our relationship, when I was just spewing off hate at him all the time and wanting to leave and trying to get out and threatening to leave. I pinned him down, not physically, but pinned him down like verbally a few times. And he actually admitted and said that he purposely was keeping me poor in order to keep me in his possession. It was like his way of controlling me. And he got all upset. It was this whole emotional thing where he actually cried, which narcissists are not known to do, but they can do because they can mimic. And he admitted to totally manipulating the situation. And that's a whole story, a whole story. And it catapulted into other things and kept me working for him for longer and stuff like that. But that is something that they do. The next one is denying something is true. So this is considered gaslighting. This is insanity. This will drive you insane. So for those of you that don't know what gaslighting is, there is actually I'm going to totally lie here, but like a 1970 or I don't even know, a long time ago movie. And the movie's called, I think, Gaslight. And it was basically about this man who was I actually saw the movie, and I'm going to totally re-say what it is, and it's going to be so wrong. But I do recommend you to see it just so you kind of understand the concept of it. But it's basically a man who's trying to convince his wife that she's insane. I don't remember why. But the way that he does it is he goes up into the attic every single night and he dims the lights in their apartment. Because back then it was gas. So he would lower the gas and the lights would dim. And he'd come back down and she'd say, oh my gosh, the lights are dimming or they look dark or whatever. And he'd be like, what are you talking about? You're absolutely crazy. You're going insane. They're the same. And then there was other little things that he did, moving things or adjusting things. Where she would like swear that she didn't do it, but he actually did it, but then he would say that she did it, and basically made her feel like she was going insane, like she was sick, and like saw a doctor and was like feeling like so overwhelmed. And it was him playing tricks on her. And that's where the name gaslighting came from. It's when something that is 100% true, and they are totally convincing you that it's not true, and then you don't know which one's true. Is what you're saying true? Is what they're saying true? Because they're so convincing that you literally feel as if you're going insane. Very, very important, number one, to not get caught up in this argument It doesn't matter. Even though it seems like it matters, it doesn't matter. Don't let them make you feel crazy. Don't let them make you feel crazy. If you know 100% it's true, cut the conversation. You are not going to win these arguments. The only way to win these arguments is to not argue. Refuse to argue, and that is how you get them to stop. Don't let them carry on. They cannot make you talk. They cannot make you carry on. They will try. They will keep prying at you and keep saying things and keep nitpicking and trying to get you to open up. And you have the power, the right, and the control to stay silent. You can stay silent. Don't let them wrap you up into that whole game. It's a game. And what's happening is every single time they can get you all riled up like that, you are feeding them. You are feeding them energy and supply. Because this is the thing. A narcissist has very, very little self-esteem. Even though they seem all boisterous and all like, I'm so cool and I'm so great and I'm so handsome. Very, very low self-esteem. And what happens is when you feed into whatever they're doing and they get you all riled up, they take that as how powerful they are. The fact that they can manipulate you, the fact that you're like a puppet to them, makes them feel powerful. You are a supply. You are a source of energy for them. That's all you are. So the only way to disempower a narcissist is to not feed them energy. And your energy, right? You're arguing, you getting upset, you yelling, you crying in the bathroom, all dramatic like, is you giving them power by giving you their energy. They actually physically feed off the drama. So if you are trying to take back your control, if you're trying to control them, if you're trying to put them in your place, keep your power, you have to cut it. You have to cut the supply, cut the cord. You have to almost physically visualize it as an electrical current. So the lights in my bedroom right now, if I were to go into the electrical box and just cut, obviously I get electrocuted, but imagine just cut the electrical cord, this light up here would automatically turn off. There's nothing feeding it. No source, even though the light bulbs work, even though it's perfectly capable. If you cut the source, all the lights for these lights would completely turn off. Zero. That's the way that you have to physically see it. So you have an electrical wire from you to your narcissist. And the only way to turn off your narcissist, the light over there, is to cut the cord. And when you cut the cord, that means all the power, electricity, the current gets cut off. Silence. It just goes dead. You have to absolutely go dead. Silent. And that's the only way to get them to turn off. So when this whole there's no way to win a gaslighting argument. Zero ways. You can try all the which ways, what ways. You can record it. You can take notes. You can journal it. You can videotape it. It doesn't matter. They will absolutely 100% deny it, even if you recorded it. And the way that they'll do this is they'll say, well, you didn't catch the part, because obviously the probability, well, you can't record the whole thing. So even if you do record from like the very beginning of the argument, it'll be, well, you enticed it by saying this part 1 hour ago or yesterday, which then snowballed into this conversation, and you forgot about that part. So somehow it'll end up being back your fault. It's very tricky. You cannot win. The only way to win is to silence. absolute silence. Absolute silence. Okay. Goading and then blaming. I thought I wrote this down somewhere. Oh, I did. To provoke or annoy. So first they will provoke you or annoy you, and then they will blame you. So abusers know just how to upset you, but once the trouble starts, it's your fault for creating it. So they are most known for blaming. They never, ever, 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 ever take fault for anything. And if you do happen to have some crazy narcissist who does take blame, it's for a reason. It's for a reason. They are manipulating another situation somewhere in the future or in the past, and they are using this in order to gain traction somewhere else. It's always your fault. They will never, ever take blame for anything. So provoking and annoying, that's what they would do. They would provoke you, get you all riled up. That's the energy. That's what they're trying to do. So they get you all like this, and that's you actually feeding them energy. You're just shooting energy right at them. They're feeling powerful. They're feeling confident. They're feeling like a master, moving their little puppet around. You're like the little puppet jumping like this, and they're up here. They're like, watch this. If I do this, she'll kick. Watch. If I do this, watch. She'll do this. That's what they're doing. And they're laughing. They're laughing hysterically. And you'll see it too. You'll see them smile. You'll see them laugh. You'll see them giggle. They love it. They love it when you're out of control. And then they'll blame it on you. And then they'll totally blame the whole thing on you. So don't let them get to you. Denying their abuse. When you complain about their attacks, abusers will deny it, seemingly bewildered at the very thought of it. So this is basically the same thing as gaslighting. Mine did this all the time. I would say, you keep doing this to me. You did this to me last week. You did this. And then I got smart and I'm like, I'm going to remember this exact situation. So I actually started keeping a journal. I actually still have the journal. I had a journal. He found it, threw it away. Then I started another journal, which he actually did find, but I kept it, of the stuff that he would say. And I actually started writing it down with a date and exactly what was said. This way I could go back and I could be like, on June 1st, 20 blah, 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 you said this and this and this. Now you're telling me this and this and this, which is the opposite of this, or whatever it is. Or, you said this to me, or called me this, and I've never said that before. Yes, and you said it on this day too. Deny. It doesn't matter if you have notes. None of it matters. It doesn't matter. They know they did it, and they're going to deny it until the end. And that's just another way of making you seem absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Trivializing. When you want to talk about your hurt feelings, they accuse you of overreacting and making mountains out of molehills. So I was constantly being told that I was emotional, overly emotional, constantly being told that I was overly dramatic. That was a big one. You're so overly dramatic. Oh my God. Here we go again. Crying again. You're such a baby. Because he was so mean. He would say the meanest things to me and I would cry, and he would just insist that I was being dramatic. And what was so funny about it is I remember there was a point in our relationship where I turned, and I'm pretty sure it was probably after I found out he was a narcissist. I'm not 100%. But there was a point where I turned, and stuff that I would never say to somebody, like things that I never, because I'm so nice and I'm so kind and I'm so loving, and I would never think to even call someone a jerk. I would never do that. There came a point in our relationship years in where the verbal abuse was so bad that one day I was just like, F you. Nothing I ever would have said. And he actually laughed. Like he would, whenever, which didn't happen very often. I mean, maybe towards the end of the relationship, a few dozen times where I was just like, you're a fucking blah, 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 and just would swear or yell profanities or whatever, or call him names. And it didn't even bother him the way it bothered me. He would laugh at me like it was a joke. Like, such a bully, just such a horrible bully. But the things that he would say to me, if I turned around, and I would make me cry, if I turned around and said them to him, he would just laugh at me. I remember there was this one time, I don't even remember what was said, but I was like, oh, I wish I could remember. And I remember his face even. He said something so ridiculous to me. Like, everyone thinks you're a loser or something. And I was like, that's not even true. Everyone thinks you're a loser. And he was like, I'm not a loser. I'm the coolest person in the whole world. Like, you don't even know what you're... He flipped it. And I never would have thought about doing that. I was so taken... That's not what it was, but I was so taken back by it. Like, every time he would call me a name, I'd always be like, oh my God, no, I can't believe you're saying these things to me. And it never occurred to me to say, no, I'm not. Like, no, I'm not these things. What are you even talking about? I'm amazing. It never occurred to me to say that. But when I said it to him, his response was, no, I'm not. I'm actually really awesome. I'm actually really smart. I'm actually really educated, or whatever it was. He totally stood up for himself. It like took me by surprise, because I was like, that's how like low my self-esteem was, or how low my confidence was. It didn't even occur to me to say, no, and I'm awesome. Like, what are you even talking about? I wish I would have remembered that conversation. I'll have to like really think about that and share that at some point. But you can do that. You can actually, when they start throwing things at you, so I didn't know that. It just didn't occur to me. You can actually disagree with them. When they're like, you're dumb, you're an idiot. You can be like, no, actually I'm not. Actually, I'm really smart. And actually, I'm very educated. And actually, I've done this and 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 this, and name all of the things that you've done. Like, you can actually do that. You don't have to stay in the hole that they're digging for you and looking up like, oh, poor me. You don't have to do that. You can actually climb out and say, no, actually no to everything that you're saying. So that was a good piece of information there. Next one, saying you have no sense of humor. Abusers make personal jokes about you. If you object, they'll tell you to lighten up. I feel like we talked about this one before. But, so this one would usually happen right when I was about ready to leave. So it was usually, this happened every 3 to 4 months, where I just couldn't take the abuse anymore. And I would be like, that's it. I'm out of here. I have to straighten my leg. I'm sitting Indian style. That's it. I'm out of here. I can't take this anymore. And I'd start like packing my bag or something. And then this is when the love bombing would happen. All of a sudden, let me take you out to eat. Let me take you for a hamburger. Let me take you to your favorite restaurant. Calm down. And simultaneously, it would go from him being raging, so mad, so angry, to all of a sudden he was just kidding. I was just kidding. Oh my God. Why are you being so dramatic? I was just kidding. And I'm like, how is that kidding? You literally said this and this and this and this about me, and you've been harassing me about this for the last 4 days. How are you kidding? Oh my God, I was just kidding. Holy crap, calm down. Let's go out to eat. You're just hungry. And it was all of a sudden a joke. All of a sudden a joke. So, and then again, my fault for being too overly sensitive, too emotional, too dramatic. And this would again belittle my feelings. So all of the feelings that I had inside of feeling taking my power away, feeling ugly, feeling dumb, feeling like an idiot, whatever the conversation was about, instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry for making you feel that way, it was, this is your fault for feeling this way. Never even meant to make you feel this way. You're the one that's over analyzing, being overly dramatic, and that's your fault. That's your fault for feeling that way. You shouldn't have felt that way because that's not even how this was. I was just kidding. Next one is blaming you for, and you also don't look like you're very fun. They make you look like you're not fun. Like, oh my God, can't you take a joke? Geez, you're so serious all the time. You're so serious all the time. Like, not being serious, you're literally hurting my feelings. And anybody would be serious when their feelings are being hurt. Nobody's going to be laughing when they're crying. That's not a thing. Blaming you for all of their problems. Now, this one was really interesting for me. And I don't really necessarily, I've never really met anybody with my exact situation to the extent that it was. I'm sure that there are plenty of women out there. So my story, long story short, is, as I just previously mentioned, I was working for my narc. So he had convinced me early on in our relationship to work for him. And since I worked for him, so since I was living with him for free, I was in charge of doing all the housework. That was like my way of paying back, even though I also wasn't getting any money a week. That was my rent. So he was taking advantage of me on two different sides. Like, number one, he's not paying me hardly anything. So that was my rent and my utilities. But then also, since you're living for free, you're going to stock the refrigerator, stock the pantry, make all the food, do all the dishes, and do all of the house cleaning, all of the laundry, all of the ironing in order to pay for your free living, even though it wasn't for free. Like, he would always say you're living for free, but I wasn't living for free because I was making less money than what I would have been making. So that was my rent. It was insane what he got away with. It was so insane. But anyways, so I was in charge of everything in the house, everything, cleaning wise. And then at work, he slowly, over the course of maybe a year or two, probably 2 years, I was in charge of everything at work. So all the phone calls in and out, all of the training, all of the material, all of the new hires, the cleaning of the office, supplies, HR, every single thing. Slowly throughout the years, more and more. We went from one office to 2, 3, 4, 5 over the course, or over 4 different states. So we kept moving. That's the other sign of a narcissist. They keep moving you so that you can't get friends. So every time I would start to build rapport with people or start gaining a little bit of traction with people, he would somehow make an excuse as to why we needed to move again. And it wasn't like moving across town. It was moving to an entirely different state. We moved 4 different states over the 13 years. And then during that time, we would have to visit the other states. So even though we were in certain states for a longer period of time, we were still going over the weekend or whatever it was. So I still couldn't really grasp a ritual, like girls' night, Saturday. There was none of that because I was always being moved and shifted around constantly. So anyways, because I was controlling everything in the house, and then controlling, when I say controlling, I mean like in charge of everything in the business. As you know, in life, something goes wrong every day. Like every day you break a glass, or you forget to buy milk, or you didn't clean the bathroom, or, something goes weird at work. Every day, one thing, big or small, happens. Well, the way that he positioned me to be in charge of virtually everything, it was without doubt, there was every single day something. So obviously, every single day something. And even if it was as small as me, coming home, getting a drink of water, and then putting the glass that had water in it in the sink instead of putting it in the dishwasher, would turn into a whole thing. For me, laundry, for instance, I was the one in charge of laundry. So the way that I do laundry is I wash the clothes, then I take the clothes, I put them in the dryer. Before I start the dryer, I take out the lint, put it in the trash, put the lint back, start the dryer. Now, what would happen is every once in a while, maybe like 4 times a year, he would do laundry. And he would put the clothes in the wash, then they go from the wash into the dryer, and he would check the lint trap, and there would be lint in the lint trap because you're supposed to empty it. Well, because it was there, and I don't do the laundry and then after the dryer then empty out the lint trap for like the next load, every single time it was, I can't believe you're doing it like this, you're going to catch the house on fire. Everybody knows. It would turn into a 2-day argument about how I'm not doing it correctly. I'm breaking his appliances, which nothing ever broke, by the way. I'm going to burn the house down. Didn't anybody ever tell you? Only an idiot would do that. Didn't your mom teach you? Your mom didn't teach you. Then harass me for the next day or a few days or whatever it was. Or if he'd hear the dryer going, he'd say, hey, did you empty out the lint trap? Yes, I emptied out the lint trap. Are you sure? Because every single time I check the lint trap, it's always full. Yeah, because that's the way that I do it. Before I started, I empty it out, and it would turn into this whole freaking thing. And then at work, same thing. Any issue with a person at work, any drama at work, any issues with payroll, just think of a business. Think of the things that happen during a business. There's always something. So basically, because I ran everything, anything that went wrong, which was every day, he would then be able to berate me all day, every day. So every single day, multiple times a day, because if you think about it, not just one thing goes wrong every single day, multiple things go wrong every single day, especially if you're looking for it. So if the floor there was dog hair on the floor, if the doggy bowl wasn't clean, if, some of my hair was on the bathroom floor, if the toilet wasn't flushed, if whatever it was, every single day. And it would turn it every day. He had ammunition to just freak out at me and mentally and emotionally beat the crap out of me every single day. And I remember towards the end, probably the last 3 years I was with him, I was like, all I do when I wake up is I literally pray that for one day, just one day, I wouldn't get yelled at. Just one day. Every day I wake up and I hope that today is the day that I do not get yelled at. That's what I used to tell him. Because I already knew he was a narcissist at that point. I already knew I was leaving at that point. I was already saving money at that point. It was just so heavy every single day. So I don't know obviously I don't know what, level you're at as far as like what you're in charge of, but my situation was horrendous with that. Between the blame and the jealousy, it was a constant mind, just boggling. Absolute. I sometimes wonder how I didn't commit suicide. I wonder how I'm not an alcoholic. I wonder how I didn't jump off a bridge, because I don't even know how I handled it. I have no clue. And I think the reason is because I had already dealt with so many other levels, not even nearly as bad as that, but bad narcissists in my life, that it kind of prepped me. So it was like a gradual strengthening within me. But, you know, now that I'm out, I'm going to say, and for those of you that are trying to get out, for those of you that are looking to get out, I'm telling you, if you do the work, if you do the personal growth, self-development work on yourself, man, you can come out so much stronger than you ever would have been, than you ever could imagine. And that's the one thing, you know, as bad as it was, and as much as people are like, oh, it's the worst, and it was so horrible, and I'm broken. You don't have to be broken. You can, if you figure it out, you read the books, you stay educated. Look, I'm always reading. You stay educated. You can come out freaking like a bomb. You can just hit the ground running. If you can take the verbal and mental abuse of living with an individual like that, you can literally accomplish anything in your life. Anything. You can take on any boss, any spouse, any kids at any time. You are an absolute rock star. If you get out of that relationship and you are not addicted to drugs, you are not an alcoholic, and you did not kill yourself, dude, you are unstoppable. Unstoppable. I'm telling you, you have strength beyond what any normal person would ever be able to handle. I'm telling you. You have to harness that. You have to know that, and you have to harness that. And man, if you're deciding to get out, start making plans. If you're not getting out, 1, think about getting out. 2, you got to get your power back. You have to get your power back. There is no reason, absolutely no reason for you to be in that relationship. 0. You're not helping your kids. You're hurting your kids. You're not helping yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're not helping him at all. At all. 0. There's no benefit to that. 0. If it is what it is, if you got religious backgrounds, some people can't leave because they have religious backgrounds. Some people can't leave because of the financial. I get it. I totally 100% get it. But don't let him steal your life from you. Or her. Don't let her steal your life from you, whichever one you're dealing with. Last one here. Destroying and denying. I didn't really deal with this. They might crack your cell phone screen or lose your car keys, then deny it. I never dealt with that with mine. I have heard of that, you know, broken TVs, throwing things across the room. He never ruined any of my stuff or hit any of my stuff, and the reason why is because he would freak if I ever did any of that to him. He was super materialistic. I don't want to say he was like incredibly wealthy, but he had money. You know, he had a lot of money, and I helped him acquire a lot of that money. Probably quadrupled his living style with my work ethic that he totally took advantage of, but it is what it is. But if he ever would have ruined, first of all, I didn't have anything. I was making no money, and then by the time I was making money, I was at that point saving all of my money to freaking leave. But I was shopping at Goodwill the whole time I was with him. I shopped secondhand stores. Anything that I have new was either bought by him or I had some sort of a gift card or something. Everything was secondhand that I purchased, and none of it was worth anything. Even the few things he bought me from like Express, it wasn't anything. And then the car that I had, that was mine, was a piece of crap. And then when my car got totaled and he insisted on buying me a car, that was his car. So he's not going to ruin his car. And if he ever would have done anything to my stuff, I think that he would have been too scared that I would have done something to his stuff. And he had nice stuff. He had Ducatis and a brand new Jeep and a Porsche. And he would flip out if I ever did anything to him. Not that I ever would have, but that's too much of a risk. Like, he would never risk messing with my stuff, knowing that I could possibly retaliate and mess with his stuff. He'd flip out. So that was never really an option, but I have heard of that. So that's the last one on that. So we have, under accusing, blaming, and denial, we have jealousy, turning the tables, denying something you know is true, that's gaslighting, using guilt, goading and then blaming, which means provoking and then blaming you for it, denying their abuse, accusing you of abuse, trivializing. Oh, I think I skipped over that one. Accusing you of abuse. I never dealt with that one either. That one says, they say you're the one who has anger and control issues and they're the helpless victim. I never did that one. He was always in control. He didn't do that. That's another tactic that they use. No. He was never the victim. Trivializing. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Saying you have no sense of humor, blaming you for their problems, and destroying and denying. So I believe it's 11. I will list them below, so you can jot those down if you like. As I said earlier in this video here, I run a mentoring project under my company, Human Better 365. It's called Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse. I have one-on-one coaching that I do with that. I am also creating an online course. There are so many coaches on here teaching you what the traits of a narcissist are. Pretty much exactly what I am doing here. However, I don't see anybody teaching you how to get out. And that is what I am working on. I am working on a course on my exact blueprint on how I got out of my relationship, what I exactly did. Because remember, I was making no money. I did not have my own job. He controlled my job. He controlled my phone. He controlled my car. He controlled the utilities. Everything was in his name. He controlled my life, my health insurance, everything. The only thing I had was clothes. When I moved out of my apartment into his place, I sold all of my stuff or threw it in the trash. And so I moved into his house with my clothes and my car. And when I left with my clothes. So I actually left with less than what I went in with. So that's great. But it is, it is what it is. So I had to build a business. I had to build an online business and figure out the ins and outs of all of that crap. And I lost my money twice, for real. I made money, was ready to move out, and then lost it twice. And that's a whole nother story for a whole nother post. I encourage you to follow me on Facebook, Sabrina Victoria. And I share my story. I've shared my story on there a few times, but I've already been talking here for an hour, so I don't want to keep you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.